At one point, you had said that there has been harmful activity or aggressive activity. Has any of the activity been aggressive, been hostile in your reports?
I know of multiple colleagues of mine that got physically injured. And the activity, and
by UAPs or by people within the federal government?
both.
Okay, so there has been activity by alien or non-human technology and or beings that has caused harm to humans.
I can't get into the specifics in an open environment, but at least the activity that I personally witnessed, and I have to be very careful here, because they tell you never to acknowledge tradecraft, right? So what I personally witnessed myself and my wife was very disturbing.
Hello guys, David Vose here. Oh man, it's a beautiful day and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, friends, let's get right into this today. I want to show you a few clips. The one you just watched is part of what's going on, this disclosure, and Congress is just rattling with all these people coming in to testify that the government's lying to us, and they've been lying to us for years, and aliens are coming. But I'm going to talk about this clip that you saw, and I want to find out just who this guy is, because I'm going to show you that he's an actor, that he's an agent for the government, and that everything he's telling you is a misinformation, and basically he's an actor. And I'm going to show you that what they've done is they've set this up. They're going to display and show you and prove to you that they were lying. Those were the bad guys. That's Biden and Pelosi and the Schiffs and all the other bad guys. That's the Soros, and that's the Bill Clinton and the Hillary and all of these bad guys. But they're done. They're over. Trump's in our power now. We're having disclosure. We're going to find out what they've been doing. The problem is what they're confessing to is just so that you will then now believe them. They've set this whole thing up for 8 years with Trump, trying to impeach him and making everybody think that he's really such a great guy fighting the system. And now that he's in office, you're supposed to believe and trust him, and there's going to be disclosure. The problem is that they're going to another one world system, and they don't care about the past. They want you to know the past was all evil, but now we're going to have a good system. Aliens are coming. And this is going to be part of their plot, and we're going to find out what their plot is, but they're about to tell us a bigger lie than the one that they're disclosing now. That's what's going on, friends. You're being deceived in the greatest psyop that's ever been presented to mankind. And I don't know if you guys have noticed it. I bet you have. But all over my TikTok and YouTube, it is like everybody and their cousin literally having these revelations about the earth is not a globe, or, they've been lying to us, or we didn't go to the moon, or what. But it's really getting deep now. And I have literally found this whole flat earth thing now has moved into another phase where there's been enough people investigating this, and some serious investigators are starting to calculate and do some things. And we now have, I believe, proof that the earth is not the size that they're claiming. We can't prove it's not a globe necessarily with this information, but we can prove that it's far larger than they have told us. Far larger. The earth must be either an infinite plane, or a flat disk, or maybe a hologram. but it is not a globe 8,000 miles through its diameter, 24,000 miles around, as they're telling us. The figures do not match. I personally can see far more than just a few miles. I can see 30, 40 miles myself with just my own eyes. And so, what is going on? Is this disclosure supposed to be really telling us the truth? Are they going to fess up now? Are we going to find out we're living in a wonderful, brave new world? And we're all going to have freedom and we're going to just scrap the whole totalitarian system idea? But who in the world really is this guy here? I looked at his nameplate and it said Grush. So I looked him up. David Grush is his name, to find out who this man was, because honestly, he almost looked like a actor. I'm not somebody who can, look at somebody's demeanor or their expressions and tell you whether they're lying or not. At least I don't have any credentials in that area. However, when I see a staged event televised where paid actors called congressmen are staging some kind of back and forth, almost as if it's theater, where they're acting surprise or getting angry because they're so, they're so righteous, these congressmen. Why, how dare you lie to us all this time? And it's like they didn't literally know that they were lying all of this time. I see something happening. All of a sudden, we've talked about this disclosure. All of a sudden, disclosure, and now aliens are coming. And we're gonna show some clips here that might be very disturbing to anyone with this talent that I have to see when people are lying. Although you may have the talent to see when people are lying, you may have buried that because you chose to believe the irrational content coming out of your television. Congress has had these things like the impeachment for 4 years of Donald Trump staged. They are making the world believe that everything's out of control. There are bad guys, but we don't know who they are. And they're certainly not the people that we elected. Oh, we didn't elect them. They were literally given billions of dollars to run billions of ads. And then we voted on machines that were technologically programmed by people from Venezuela and paid for by people like Mitt Romney, who's actually running for office somewhere, or people that are connected to the Bush campaign. And the people that used the machines before we used them were people in Venezuela, where a dictator was set up by the CIA using the very machines that they created to manipulate elections. So here we have a body of individuals that are consistently for years pumping out legislation that slowly and methodically keeps putting more walls around us, surveillance, cameras, laws, permits, licensees, restrictions. And all the while, the ones that put the laws into effect seem to be very poor lawyers and poor legislators, but very good actors. Some of them getting angry at each other, yelling at each other, demanding documentations from each other, and investigations of each other, where no one ever has gone to jail in the history of that. There is a lot of corruption, and they want you to be mad about that. It's like they want you to be mad because they wanted you to not like Donald Trump. Now you say, well, that was the other side. The bad guys, the Democrats, the liberals, they wanted you to hate Trump. Well, they wanted to get rid of Trump. They were trying to take him out. And the effect of that was that it made Donald Trump more popular. They even staged a January 6th kind of coup thing, which wasn't really a coup, but they made it's so subliminal because everyone's sitting here going, wait a minute, what coup? Like, we didn't see a coup, and they had nothing against Donald Trump, but they ran the narrative that he was, I see to this day, I see TikToks where people are actively saying, and very convincingly so, that Donald Trump is Hitler and he's about to take over the world. Now, here's probably why they're doing this kind of Hegelian dialectic or whatever that, I don't know what you even want to call it. It's all MK, mind control, whatever. But the fact that you are not mad at Donald Trump for rounding thousands of people up in armored buses and literally without any due process taking them away. And the narrative is, well, they're all terrorists, and the prior administration, they were communists. They hated America. They wanted all the little children to be trans, and they were trying to kill all the babies. And, there was a lot of corruption and drugs, and we're going to clean all that up now. And of course, the American people are like, great, we're going to clean all that up. And the narrative also is that Donald Trump is a billionaire. He doesn't need financing. Therefore, he's using his own money. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't he get financed to become the billionaire that he is? Would they finance somebody like me who's literally trying to expose something to you that they don't want you to know? But they do pretend to expose things that they do want you to know. So if they make it look for 4 years, hey, let's go 8 years. 8 years, we hate this guy. But he conquers all, and he rises through the ranks, and they couldn't convict him of anything. And forget all those pictures about Donald Trump going to the island and being on the airplane and running around and, being serviced by little underage women. And, forget all the dancing and the grabbing by the pool, whatever. Forget all of that, because probably he had nothing to do with Epstein, even though he was always partying with Epstein, just like Clinton. Why aren't we talking about the relationship that any of these people had with Epstein? Why aren't they required to explain what they did? And if they know Epstein, why aren't they required to explain what Epstein was doing? But, all right, I'm getting off. The point is, somehow I want you to understand that everything is a manipulation. So, on the first level, we know that things like, let's say that there is a SHOOTING going on at a SCHOOL. Well, it's going to be horror all over your television, Fox News, CNN, NBC, CBS, whatever. It's going to be out there everywhere. Glenn Beck's going to be talking about it, for goodness sakes. I mean, literally, they're going to be talking about this on Redacted. And this is a show that they brought out, I don't know, somewhere around, once we got through the COVID and all of a sudden we were kind of being allowed to talk about it, and it was somehow or another, you were allowed to show dissent. And miraculously, all these thousands of sheep that were just going into Walmart with their little mask on immediately turned around and went, eh? And, now they start protesting and, oh, it's crazy. Why are you making us do this? Oh, and right at that point, boom, YouTube switches. Now you're allowed to say pretty much anything. You don't get any copyright strikes. They bring back quite a few people they banned, and I'm all of a sudden monetized. And Redacted comes along right after the COVID, and they're like openly talking about it. And they're not a major news network. In fact, the lady on there, what's her name? I can't remember her name. A little dark-haired girl on the Redacted. She used to be a Jehovah's Witness. This is what I've heard. Now, I may be wrong about that, but that's what I heard. But these guys on Redacted act like they're bucking the system. They're our heroes. We're going to listen to them. And they don't get banned. But you see, they didn't actively speak against it while it was happening. So they carefully orchestrate these new channels like Newsmax or something. It just pops up and they're allowed to say everything, but they're not allowed to say much. Only this narrative, which is we hate the government, which is the new narrative. That's what they want now. Everybody's against Biden now and Pelosi. They're goners. So it's okay to say Biden's a bumbling idiot and Pelosi's a drunk. And they're all liars. I mean, you could probably say that on YouTube if you were some nobody during that time. They couldn't necessarily kick you off for saying, I hate Pelosi and Biden and blah, 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 and I love Trump. And so they orchestrated it so that we'd have this period of time where everybody was visibly seeing and starting to become anxious about what was happening to our country. Terrorists were coming in. We had just spent years in a war with, Afghanistan supposedly. No, it was Iraq. Oh yeah, they're the ones that, we were, but even that was a psyop. They wanted you to think it was for the oil. They already had the oil. They didn't go over there for the oil. They went over there to make everything in that country lock, stock, and barrel now is run by the CIA, as they have done in many countries before this. They're just setting everything up. I mean, Libya, Iraq, everything. It's all being set up. And we're watching and never knowing the real reason why they're doing anything. So now they're doing disclosure and they're telling us that aliens are coming. Right at the same time that these aliens, October 29th or whatever, that's about the same time they're going to switch over from the system of Swift over to XRP. About the same time that they think that this alien is about to arrive. So, I'm kind of having a hard time trying to explain what I'm saying. So I'm going to show you some clips to show you this wave that we're going through of everybody and their uncle saying that aliens are coming, which automatically corresponds with people supposedly in government and in Congress that are also sounding the alarm, aliens are coming. Let me just ask you this one question. If aliens were coming, what would you think that aliens, if there were such a thing, would be doing? Well, they put it into your mind already. They've given you the answer already. The answer would be that there is no Jesus. Or if there is a Jesus, he's an alien. And he might be a good alien. He's coming to save us. Hey, they'll go with that. A lot of people believe in Jesus. They just want you to come to a conclusion whether you believe in Jesus or not. Because remember, the Apostle Paul says that there's another Jesus that they preach. So even if they are preaching a Jesus, it may not be the correct Jesus. And odds are they don't have the correct Jesus because they probably don't understand the esoteric wisdom. So if they can convince for 100 years Jehovah's Witnesses to believe that Jesus was just some man, a prophet, if they can't beat Jesus, maybe they could join him and they could say, oh yeah, we like Jesus too. You just misunderstanding. He's not the divine being. He's not going to save you. But now that we've told you that there's all this corruption going on in the world, and we've shown you the attempt that we've made to try and get rid of it, but it's just impossible. And now somehow another AI got launched, and we don't know how that happened because they're going to kill us. We literally are in a bad situation now because of all the crime that has gone on. Nobody knows how it happened. Nobody, we recognize and admit that the oil moguls and the bankers and the Jeffrey Epsteins and the Ted Bundys and all these evil people exist, but we have literally no way to stop it because this is an evil world. And it's because of your heart, because you're all evil. The only way to fix this is law and order and put everybody in prison or execute everyone and crack down on you evil little peasants that all you want to do is, it was your fault, right? Because we are basically saying that this is just inevitable, that people are going to try and deceive you and lie to you and steal from you. The problem is that in order to stop these high up individuals, these elite, from continuing to rob and pillage and steal from everybody, we're going to have to take away your freedoms so that you can't somehow or another work your way up through a law degree and get to be the CEO of a bank and rob and pillage the world. So since they did it and they're all brothers, just this one family that has this religious belief of buying and selling and law and order and wars and slavery, they follow that religion and teach it in all your churches and all your public education. They teach law and order everywhere. Same basic. Do you realize that you liberals who believe in law and order are believing in the Bible? You're kind of like Sharia law people, right? We believe in the law. Well, then you're Sharia law individuals. Same thing. You're just like these Muslims that you claim are so conservative and hateful because they want to put everybody under their law. But it's you liberals, who want to put everyone under a law that says you've got to drive down the road at a certain speed and stop at a stop sign and put your blinkers on. And if you have drugs that we don't approve of, you go to prison for the rest of your life and probably you're going to be executed. But and we can find you no matter where you're at, you can't get away. We got cameras, but we can't figure out what Trump was doing all those years. And we can't figure out what Clinton or Congress or Biden or anyone's doing. We can't stop them. We know Biden was a bad guy, but we can't change his policies unless we bring in a dictator like Hitler and start getting you used to the idea that all the evil in the world that you've been witnessing, the only solution is to take your rights away. But now think about this. What if they get you to believe that crime and theft and pillaging and raping and all the evils in the world and the drugs and the terrorists is so great that the only way to solve it, because we're just tired of being stolen from and raped and pillaged and lied to. So the only way we're going to stop this is we're going to have a one world government where everyone is enslaved and can't go anywhere or do anything unless we say so. We're going to make all the land in the United States and all over the world off limits to these peasants because they're just trashing it, pooping on the ground, the little peasants, pooping on the ground and cutting trees down, making shelters and, pissing in the water. So we've got to stop this to preserve the earth. So you all got to go into your little 15-minute cities. And you say, okay, we're willing to do that to save the planet. But what if you found out that this is all just a big hoax? Because if you think about it, they do this all the time. You see something bad happening in the news, like the shootings, and then they give you the solution. No more GUNs. You got to take away your Second Amendment. You know, you want to get rid of the problem? Here's the solution. Take away your rights. So they present you with the problem. So now they're presenting you with the problem of all of this, all these liars. At the same time, they're telling you that aliens are coming. Now, that alien that comes, they would be far more technologically advanced. They could put everybody in control. They could force us to stand in a firing squad line and we could all be shot. Or they could grind us in a meat grinder. They could zap us with a ray gun. They could do anything they wanted. There'd be nothing we could do, right? That's what they could easily tell us. What would be the purpose of this? Well, either they could use the aliens to keep us under control and say it's not our fault, right? They're living in castles. They're not subject to all these laws and restrictions like we are. They can go wandering around out in the woods and go camping or do whatever they want. They got their own little jet and everything. We won't even know. There's probably going to be retreats out there, you know, for people who can pay for it. If you got a lot of money, you can book a flight to Alaska or somewhere and enjoy the land and the resources, but not if you're poor. You got to live in these little 15-minute cities. So they're not worried about it. But if they bring these armies in with technology that we've never seen and convince us that it's aliens, then we're just going to be like, well, I guess we're stuck like Chuck. And I guess there weren't no Jesus because we didn't get saved. Well, friends, none of this is going to work. And we're going to show you that. They're going to fail. They've got to have one of two things up their sleeve. Either they believe and know that Jesus is coming, and these technological advancements that they're creating is literally their only hope that somehow they can use this technology to fight Jesus. They know they're going to lose, but maybe they can use the technology in their own mind. They might be thinking to keep us like hostages. So when Jesus does arrive, they'll say, look, if you try to take us, we're going to kill everybody. But, you know, I think Jesus is so powerful and his Father that he could literally just take us all and say anybody who doesn't participate in this evil that they're planning, because you're going to get scared and do what they say, right? And start shooting your brothers and killing your family and going all twisted in your mind because you're trying to, you don't believe in Jesus. You don't believe in any way out of this other than just complying. So you're little scared rats. And in that case, you're going to go join the government and we're going to know who you are. But the ones who refuse to murder their brothers and sisters and those who are waking up and realizing that they're the bad guys, well, they'll be going into the wilderness, hiding. All the Lord has to do is protect us somewhere where that we will go as a refuge, which is what the biblical prophecies say. Meanwhile, they will try to persecute us and make it so we can't buy or sell. And if we haven't been prepared, we didn't have oil in our lamps, then we're not going to be able to get out of the system because we won't have any food to eat. And we'll be like it says in Revelation, who could do battle with the beast? And they'll be so afraid of the government that they'll obey and comply and get the mark of Yahweh upon their hand or their forehead, as it says in Deuteronomy and Exodus. So the technological ships and claims that aliens have arrived, what good would that do? Well, one, if you believed they were aliens, you would probably think, well, maybe there's no Jesus. Two, if they had all this technology, they could say, oh, it's not really from us, it's from aliens, it's not our fault. And they can kill us, but they don't have to do it. Now think about this. When Jesus came the first time, he didn't murder everybody and take over the world. That's what they do. He didn't do that. He gave everybody free choice. And they chose to kill him. Some of them chose to love him and to die with him. Okay. So they proved which side they were on. The ones who killed him, they won, right? Jesus loses. All the apostles, Christianity lost, the truth lost, love lost, and law and order won. You can't break the law, Jesus. You're a blasphemer. Have some respect for us. You don't respect us? Boom. You don't bow down and worship Yahweh, you're dead. So Jesus didn't say, you know what, you're wrong, I'm right, you're gone, and I'm going to make a beautiful paradise for the world. No, what Jesus said is fine. I'm going to let everybody make their decision. I have all authority in heaven and upon earth. And his Father says, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a stool for thy feet. And the last enemy that is conquered is death. How is Jesus going to conquer death? Death is something that's inside of you, caused from your hate, from your disbelief in love, from your fear of the beast. Jesus could take away the beast, but you're still scared of the beast. If the beast ever arrived again in somebody's heart, you'd still get scared and cower down, and the world would be back to its insanity. Humans have got to grow to a place where they choose to love. So Jesus gave them all, everyone, a chance to do whatever they wanted, and some of them killed him. So Jesus lost, right? No, Jesus didn't lose, because truth cannot lose. The true reality cannot be taken away from us. In our world today, most of the world still believes that you can't have happiness. You can't love. You can't do it that way. You can't have freedom. You've got to have laws and borders and terrorism and all these, social services and welfare and institutions and prisons. Got to, Dave. Humans are just evil. So how is Jesus going to come and save the world? Well, it's got to all disintegrate, doesn't it? Your delusions got to disintegrate. That's the only way. You're a baby, you've got a pacifier. He doesn't want to take the pacifier from you because he doesn't like babies. No, he loves you. You're the baby. You got the pacifier. He's not going to yank it from you. He's going to literally let you grow up. He's going to love you and give you independence, teach you how to be independent and how to make decisions for yourself. Like any parent, they would introduce new foods into your diet. You would love it. It's natural. He's not going to be scared and mad at you for having a pacifier and, start spanking you. Oh, how dare you? No, he'll just know that you're a baby. All you need is to be shown how, and you'll grow. So Jesus knows that. And when he came the first time, he knew that we weren't ready. So he demonstrated to us that there was nothing in this thing called death. Now, how long is it going to take for all of humans in this particular world? How long is it going to take for us to realize that all of this evil in the world is just a delusion, that we're doing it wrong? Maybe Jesus let them think they were winning, and then they killed him, and all those, his apostles and all the Christians were all martyred, and the bad guy, the devil, thought he won. But in reality, he lost, because he was demonstrating his nature, his character, and the people began to awaken. But it didn't happen right away. But perhaps that's what's going to happen now. Jesus is going to let them think they won by making their one world government, making their prison And then the people will see the prison and they'll say, we don't want the prison. And now we're ready to advance to a higher understanding and realize that we need to be free, that we need to love one another, and that they've been lying to us. Maybe the elite know that at some point the gig is up. They've been the wars and the lies, and we've kind of figured out that they're lying to us. So maybe the more they know that they've been caught red-handed, the more dastardly they will be. So what they're probably trying to do is make a big psyop so huge through fear and intimidation that they can capture our soul. But if that's going to happen, and remember in the book of Revelation, it says there are these plagues that are coming, and it says, and they still wouldn't repent. So the plagues are coming from the Lord upon the world so that we will repent. So will the world repent through what's about to happen? And what does the aliens coming have to do with that? Well, obviously, Jesus is coming, but he's not coming in a ship through the vacuum of nothing of space, trillions of light years away. Was he live in a tin can with rocket fuel? Where did they get the rocket fuel? Do they have some planet that Jesus mines to get fuel, or do they have some technology, free energy? He's coming to give us the free energy and we're all going to get on ships and take off? No. It says he's coming back with the saints. And he's going to be a light of truth that's going to dispel the darkness. So when Jesus returns, he's going to bring the saints with him. The Apostle Paul says is that we, the living, will not precede those who fall asleep in death. So you see in Revelation chapter 6, he sees the souls under the altar that have been killed, and he says, wait just a little while longer as your fellow brothers have been killed as you have been. So we know there's going to be some killing. There's going to be some death. And then there will be some who remain. And Jesus also gave us the analogy of having oil in your lamps. If your oil runs out, then when the bridegroom comes, you don't get to go into the wedding. Well, what's the wedding? It's the union. It's the glorification. It's the what they call the rapture, but not physically taken from the earth, go somewhere. It's a rapture in your mind. It's the orgasm of the wedding. It's the change in the twinkling of an eye. It's the putting on immortality. So as we put on this immortality, because we remain until he comes, there are those who don't remain until he comes because they had to go out into the city, back into the world, to get some oil or some light or some truth. And by the time they came back, they didn't make it. And they end up, what? Going into the city where there's crime and death and they get murdered and they die. Well, that is a revelation to them. Because the Bible says that the darkness will dissipate when the light comes, and all the elements intensely hot shall be dissolved, Peter says. And we saw that also in that video we did yesterday in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. She talks about this physical, carnal, evil world shall be dissolved, and the works therein. So that's going to happen. There's going to be this dissolving. Well, the elite aren't going to make it because the plagues will come and they won't repent, and the plagues keep getting worse until it's the death of their firstborn. But in this case, the plagues keep coming, and if you don't go into the wilderness and get out of her, my people, you're going to share with her in her sins and partake of her plagues, the plagues that is coming upon Babylon of the world from the Lord. So eventually, in order to get the world to wake up, we have to understand that death is not real. The illusion is sin and lust and fear that this is all there is. So Jesus lovingly died on a cross, literally demonstrating to the world that death is not the end and we should not be afraid. But for those who have faith, they'll go in to the wedding supper. They'll have the change, the transformation on the mountain. 144,000 playing on their 10-string harps, making this harmony, this oneness. There's a great wedding. So it seems to me that it's all going to be dissolved, but where are we going when we're changed? Well, the whole world's going to be changed. And those who died, I mean, where is the victory if the devil kills everybody except for 144,000? Well, the victory is that there is no death, and death itself is brought to nothing. And Jesus defeats death itself as the last enemy and comes dun 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 riding on a white horse with all the saints. Well, that's symbolic of the fact that no matter what the devil does, he could kill you, but you're going to be with Jesus. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord in the true reality. There is no death. So it's just a delusion. This is just a demonstration to wake you up. And there will be those who will awaken and enter into the wedding with the Christ. But then, for those who weren't ready and didn't awaken, they go through this time of trouble or the fire. What is the fire? It is to dissolve the elemental carnal nature, meaning the outer carnal, lustful nature. They're given every opportunity to receive the love of the truth that they might be delivered from the wrath that's coming. But the wrath that's coming is literally the only thing that can shake them and awaken them. Because I think that everybody that's alive today, even though they are not perfected in faith, they have advanced far beyond the generations past. Very few people today would murder somebody in cold blood. They don't have it in them. And in the end, those who don't have any oil in their lamps, they're not going to just not make it. They're just going to lay down in the darkness and miss the boat. But remember what Jesus tells those that were begging for vengeance, who were about to die. Their souls under the altar. And Jesus says, wait a little while longer, and white robes was given to each one of them. And then we see Jesus coming on the clouds of heaven with a bunch of people with white robes. So he's coming with his saints. Even those who end up dying, not the first batch of saints that died in the days of Jesus, but this is during the tribulation. Revelation chapter 6, it says, I saw those who had died. They were under the altar. And they said, how long are you going to avenge our souls? That's the martyrs. He says, wait a little while longer until your fellow brothers have been killed. So when is the next group going to be killed? Now he's talking about during the tribulation. And they got white robes. They're your fellow brethren. So it's going to take this classroom and this violence and this pain to awaken all of us. But some are already awake. They're the first fruits, right? They've been living longer. They're elder, the firstborn. And that's why in the book of Exodus and the Old Testament, in the type, it talks about the death of the firstborn. The firstborn is the heir and redeems the rest. You see, the world would not survive this great destruction if there was none to survive. We need the firstborn, or the one who has the inheritance. And this time, the one that's remaining after the whole world's gone, well, kind of like with Noah, all the wicked died, Noah and the 8 survived. But in this case, we're going to have those who have been immortal, who have become immortal, who have changed, survive. And when the others come back with their white robes, it means that they're now coming back into a world where there is righteousness, and they're going to be immortal. So evidently, the death during the tribulation that is going to happen to all of these many people is going to be to life. And this is why Peter didn't want to take the gospel to the Gentiles. You know, Peter, Simon, son of Jonah, well, Jonah was a prophet that was supposed to go to the same place that Peter was supposed to go to, the Gentiles. But he didn't want to go. Guess what? When he finally went, he had to go through the belly of the whale, right? Meaning the dark night of the soul and all the stuff that's going on, and down through the dark night and all these incarnations. And finally, when Jesus rose on the horizon, the first fruits among many brethren, well, guess what? The gospel then goes to the dead. That's the Gentiles or all the rest of the world that's scattered into the world. And they're going to also be awakened. They're going to repent. That's what Nineveh, they all repented, and so they didn't have to be destroyed. So somehow or another, the analogy in the Bible is that the Gentiles or the world is going to be saved, but some as though by fire. That's what the Bible says. Some Christians who prove faithful and have oil in their lamps, they will be saved and delivered from the wrath that's coming because they were faithful and not one hair of their head was harmed, and they fled into the wilderness, and the Lord protected them, and they became the first fruits, right? The lump that is holy that leavens the rest of the lump. So the rest of the lump isn't yet leavened with the leaven of Christ, right? That we talked about. That's Pentecost or the wedding, because we're going to have the cake and the wine, we're going to eat the wedding cake. But very few are invited to the wedding supper of the Lamb. The rest of the world, he says, they didn't have white garments on, cast them out. But if they didn't have white garments on and they couldn't enter into the wedding, then where do they go? Well, they go into this lake of fire. And the lake of fire is the fire that dissolves the outer carnal nature. And it's going to be through this last test, trial, and tribulation that most of mankind will be getting their exaltation. And the world will then be run by the first fruits, or the heirs. And as they're incarnated, they'll come back to the world into families that are loving and kind, and that will set up a kingdom in righteousness. And the fire is a spiritual fire that burns up the outer elements that will be dissolved by the presence of the Lord. So that's what the Bible says is going to happen. They must know that he's coming, that the truth is coming. So they're going to prepare you for the truth by telling you a lie that seems like the truth to get you hooked on a supposed truth that's not really the real truth, but still a lie. Oh yeah, they've been lying to you. They're bad people, the drugs and all the evil, and we got to do something. Let's have law and order and crack down. Aliens are coming. Oh no, right? They can kill us. And so maybe there's something like that going on. Who is this David Grush? He's a UFO whistleblower. He is a former United States Air Force officer and intelligence official who has become widely known as a whistleblower. See, if they didn't want him to speak up, he'd have been whisked away or murdered or shot. But they're parading him out on a reality TV show called Congress. And he's like gesturing and very, I can't tell you that, but yes, they have harmed our family and they're terrible. Oh, they're aliens. And we're like, oh no, disclosure. Oh, he's telling the truth. It's an actor. So it's all being blasted all over the television. The aliens are coming. Congress is being briefed. For what purpose, friends? This man served 14 years in the U.S. Air Force, reaching the high rank of major, worked as a civilian at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the NGA. So what if I told you he was a CIA agent? Well, probably is. He's also an NGA agent, which is a geospatial intelligence agency. How did he get to that position if he's trying to be a whistleblower against the system? Do you see what is wrong here? We're just watching Congress, and they're impeaching the president. They're attacking him. The poor president. Oh, he's a good guy. And this is the emotion they want you to have from this. So now they've got a guy disclosing that aliens are coming, and they've been hiding it from the people all this time, and they're violent and they're evil and they're coming, and they may be here by October 29th or November or something. Right around the time when we're going to switch over to the New World Order. What are they going to use these aliens for? What divergence MK Ultra mind control are they going to play? Let me show you a couple of clips.
And then with Jeremy Corbell and what he said about us being deceived by the claim of an extraterrestrial spaceship coming toward Earth, I've been talking to the same people in Washington that he has. I travel in some of the same circles in D.C. And also there's a researcher named Richard Dolan who put out a book and series about false flag operations. One of them was called Project Bluebeam. The idea that we would be faked out about alien craft coming for the purpose of reshaping society and anything else they could do while they had us under control. Jeremy's kind of espousing that same sort of principle. A false flag operation, in my opinion, is not a likely scenario, because in this day and age, you could have video of a flying saucer hovering over a city. Nobody's going to believe it. They're going to think it's all fake. And so I think if they tell us something's coming, it's going to be because something's coming. And I think that might have a lot more to do with why we're getting this limited disclosure from Washington, D.C., is because there is a time limit on how long they have to get the information out to the public. And so we're dealing with this right now.
What are you hearing about this October 29th timeline? That come October 20, I think it's 29th, maybe I'm wrong about this, something is going to happen. Like we're getting close to maybe it's some sort of a limited disclosure, some larger scale disclosure. You heard President Trump asked about a couple of questions about the massive drone sightings over the East Coast last year. Tulsi Gabbard says that she's seen these documents, and I think she claims that the veracity of these documents, she can't talk about them, but that they are real. And the fall, right? It's perfect in time for Halloween, right? What do you make of that?
Well, we always get these deadlines and timelines. We had it in 2012 for, a major example. So there's always these times in the not too distant future where something major is supposed to happen. I have not heard anything inside of Washington, D.C., and I talked to a lot of the people that you see on TV, the Congress people involved. I haven't heard anything that says there's some kind of definitive date. Now, that being said, the managers of this information that have been keeping it a secret from people for almost 100 years now, they understand that at some point they've got to let the cat out of the bag. But how they do that is up for debate. What we've seen is that since 2017, they've tried to seize control of the narrative and parade out a few select people to tell us a few select facts. Because if the whole truth were to come out in some kind of catastrophic disclosure, the people that would be accountable for the fact that they've hidden this from humanity for all this time, and the potential crimes against humanity that come from, say, for instance, covering up a new alternative energy or covering up technology that could have taken humanity in a whole different direction, these people would have some explaining to do. So what we're seeing is this understanding that they're going to have to tell us something. At the same time, they're trying to protect themselves and their industry partners from what really would be an awful lot of accountability. And we're seeing this play out in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think maybe that's what's going on with the moon politics right now. I want to get to that in a second, because I sit in the camp that, we've had our friend of the show, Ashton Forbes, on multiple times, but others I've spoken to about free energy, that it exists, that we know it exists. Why are we still paying electric bills? Why are we still paying for all of this gasoline? We have teleportation technology, all of these things. So I sit firmly in that camp from the the people that I've spoken to, and I'm sure.
Well, just
you're- I don't
remember
wanna
the people that were paying this stuff too, people we're paying the electric bills to, and the people we're buying the gas from, they're the ones that are in charge. And so as long as, if there's any kind of a threat that would dethrone them from running the planet and controlling the population, they're going to do everything they can to delay or even stop that from happening.
So, like I've said, Redacted is still on. It's probably getting more hits than CNN or NBC at this point. And they're exposing everything, but they want them to do it. This guy used to work for, I think, CNN or Fox News, I think. And his wife worked for the news agencies as well. They are trained journalists. They believe in law and order like everyone else in this world. They believe in voting. They were happy that Trump was elected. But now they're telling you that aliens are coming. And there's nothing that the bad guys can do about their exposing them. Isn't that odd that the billionaires that murder people in drug deals and bring billions of dollars worth of fentanyl over the border to kill all of our children, they have no way to take down Redacted and stop them from exposing this. Congress is run by, even Redacted says Congress is run by the criminals and all of this. Those people who are financing the world are the banks, and they finance Trump. Why would they do that? They even gave him J.D. Vance, who works for BlackRock. Obviously, these are the elite. And somehow or another, they're going to expose themselves, but not themselves. Like, it wasn't Trump, but he's in the pictures too, but it's not Trump. It's Biden. So maybe Biden was playing an act. He was tripping over his own shoelace, like Mr. Magoo. Pelosi was over there in Congress, drunk out of her little red bonnet, picking boogers from her nose, and we thought, well, that is the problem. Now we got Trump, but you see, they were all of them financed by the same J.P. Morgan. You say J.P. Morgan wasn't involved, Dave. BlackRock wasn't involved. Well, okay, they're the ones who financed Trump, but they weren't involved with all of the corruption, not telling us about the free energy, but making us pay for the oil, bringing terrorists across the border. That was Biden. But who put Biden into office? Some other billionaires that are opposed to the other billion? No, it's a Hegelian dialectic. They're all in on together. If they can keep you distracted until November, by that time you think aliens are coming, or whatever they're going to distract you with, and the fact that, oh, at least they're fessing up and they're disclosing all of it, and it's about time they told us the truth. Okay, that's not the truth. There are no aliens. It's a distraction. They want you to believe it was the aliens that made me do it. The devil made me do it. Whoa, the devil made me do it, And so you won't really be able to blame them. But one of these guys got fed up, Trump, and BlackRock. They're like, we're tired of all this corruption. We're going to go to another government where these bad guys can't be corrupt anymore, And it's going to be what? Surveillance? Technology so great that we've got to say, oh, it's got to be aliens. It's so great. Otherwise, how is this? Why did you hide this technology from us that is able to monitor everything we do and hit you with a ray beam and you're gone like that? You're done. What kind of technology is this? If we knew the technology that the government has to keep us in a cage beyond what we already know, if we knew that Elon Musk was putting a surveillance system around us as we speak, so that once that is up, there's no way out no more, then we wouldn't like him very much at all. We'd protest. Methinks you protest too much, they'll say. But since we think that Trump's trying to dismantle all the bad things and we're going to have a new world government where everything's going to be wonderful, but oh, here comes the aliens. Well, they've got technologies that can monitor and kill you and destroy you. So it was their fault. We all got to get together and fight them. Well, maybe that's Jesus coming, right? And we're going to fight Jesus? No, I doubt that, because I don't think Jesus is coming on a spaceship. I don't think there are any aliens, and I don't think there is any outer space clear out there, light years away. I don't believe in any of it. And I'm going to show you that everything's becoming unraveled. And it almost makes you wonder if somewhere somebody isn't facilitating the unraveling of our delusion. Because if we get to the point where even Joe Rogan's saying we didn't go to the moon, then what's to prevent us from realizing? And if you look at TikTok or YouTube, these people are all over the place exposing reality. But maybe that's the Hegelian dialectic. They're exposing the reality that you don't like and trying to get you to believe in another reality that's not true either. Let me show you.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Stephen Greer, and this is the first episode of our podcast, the Dr. Stephen Greer podcast. And the reason we're starting this podcast now, rather emergently here today, is because we have a group of people who are in the process in the next 72 hours or so who will be coming forward with a great deal of information and evidence related to the UFO and NHI or extraterrestrial issue. And I think the public is going to need to have a source of perspective and context and analysis to go to.
Tonight, we are diving deep into the shadows of power with Tulsi Gabbard's recent release of the ODNI report in July 2025, and then the explosive Durham Annex declassified just a few weeks ago. We are now we're getting an unprecedented glimpse into the deep state. We can look now into that shadowy network of bureaucrats and intelligence operators, NGOs, and global influencers who the press, and you will understand why tonight, the press has been saying they don't exist. We've been saying there's something there. Somebody's pulling the strings behind the scenes. Well, tonight we have gone for weeks over these documents, and then we have linked them with our researchers and gone over them again and again, and we went back in the past. Tonight, we are going to expose the manipulations like the Russia hoax against Trump. But that's nothing. Tonight, we're going to show you how they connect to a web of past scandals, including Ukraine's 2014 revolution, the Arab Spring, all of the color revolutions. You are going to see first, part one, we're going to show you the deep state machine, how it works. Then we're going to show you who is working it. And then finally, in an amazing, this will blow your mind. We're going to take you to what they have been doing since, I think, 2012. And it's all the same people. Tonight, we will put it all into context, because if we don't understand this machine, it will continue to undermine our republic and our freedom. We will break it down the old-fashioned way tonight with a whole buttload of chalkboards. We will connect all of the dots tonight as we unmask the deep state.
So what is going on here? He's going to unmask the deep state. Well, wouldn't they want to keep that hidden? So maybe Glenn Beck's a good guy, right? Well, he's a Mormon. Mormons run the FBI. You think he might be CIA? How did he get this powerful position? He started working for Fox News. He was believable. He was exposing things way back then. Why, he's a trusted journalist. And he's about to tell you the truth. And you believe him. But let me ask you this. Do you remember when Elon Musk would go on, and he's been doing this ever since, every 5 minutes, boom, boom, boom. He has a little ad on YouTube or a little short, right? He's got a TikTok, or he's on the Twitter, or he's constantly, there's little ads coming up every day, every minute, saying, Elon's amazing. He's just so amazing. He's fighting the world, and he's fighting all the evil. and he's trying to make the world a better place. And he saw what they were doing. Oh, he saw the robots coming. He saw the AI was bad. They're going to kill us, he says. So if you can't beat them, join them. So he creates now the big AI. He's got the number one AI, basically the one that's literally 16% of, he said the other day, I showed you a clip where he, actually it was Glenn Beck, said that he was 16% of 100. And that by the end of the year, they'll probably be 100% online. And when that happens, we're done. Okay, Elon Musk is the good guy doing a Hitler salute. He's the good guy that is got this Dogecoin while XRP is becoming the bridge, and now he's going to be even more of a billionaire. All of a sudden, Trump's for it, whereas for years he was against it. Even though while he was president, XRP was going through court, and they were setting it up step by step, waiting to flip the switch because they already knew from the very beginning that we were going to go to XRP. Friends, what's going to enslave us is XRP, not aliens. But they want you to believe that the good guys are trying to stop it, but it's the good guys that are doing it. It was Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos that are creating AI. Did you know that? Jeff Bezos has got this huge, monstrous, I don't know, huge building that covers acres and acres, and it is being built as AI, the center. Meanwhile, Elon's building his own, and I guess somebody else has got one. AT&T itself, run by the same elite that handed over part of it to the Goggle brothers and the worker. And the old Billy the Gatekeeper had a lot to do with this, and all the viruses and the taking of your information. It was all being set up. Meanwhile, it's being portrayed now as if it's out of control. It was inevitable. It just evolved like the blob from the Black Lagoon. And now there's nothing we can do about it. Here comes the robots, and they're going to kill us. Oh, now here comes the aliens, and oh man, they might be hostile. And they're going to be here exactly October 29th. Same time that we're switching over to the one world government. See, what they want you to do is to be calm and to just let them take over. Once they take over, when XRP finally has absolute control over all the money, and AI has control over XRP, it's a computer, so they can stop you from buying and selling. They can monitor you. They can surveil you. Why would there be this surveillance system going up right now? Everything starts with an X, and he's wearing a Baphomet suit, right? But all this is going up with what is obviously surveillance in every store. All the little stores are run by mega corporations. The dollar store, one in every town, right? Same brand, it's all the same. There's not going to be any buying and selling between people. There's only going to be stations where we can get water and food that you won't even be allowed to travel to because you're not allowed to travel. They'll just send it to your little prison cell. Oh, that's called a prison, isn't it? Yeah, well, that's what it is. And they want you to just sit back and wait for the good guys who actually are creating the robots to, I don't know, self-implode, whatever. So what is the alien thing? Well, that's the part that is baffling. I've had literally visions, many visions that are the same exact thing. These aliens, the Lord has told me this for years before I even knew anything about this. I would have these visions, and these huge motherships were flying all around, just like we're witnessing today. And on the sides of the ships above us in the air these mega ships, were Ford, GMC, Toyota, Nissan, written right on the side. It's our technology. And I saw the fake rapture. If there is a rapture where ships are loading people or people are just getting beamed up or something, friends, don't believe it. That is not Jesus Christ. In my visions, I saw it, and I literally can guarantee you that they're just loading people up and taking them away, and they're being disappeared. But you say, how could they do that? Because you're willing to do it, because you're literally just going and running into their arms and believing everything they're saying. So why the alien angle? Well, it may have something to do with getting you to believe that aliens exist, and that might cause you to think that the whole Jesus story is not true. And that may be a big part of it. So here's what I'm trying to tell you. The aliens aren't aliens, but they want you to think they're aliens because they want you to believe in science. That will make some people believe and trust and do whatever they say. The ones who don't believe it or are not going to comply, they're going to be intimidated now because of this aliens. Why? They're so technologically advanced. There's nothing we can do. And who could do battle with the beast? So let's get a mark upon our hand or our forehead and bow down. They'll just say, it's so powerful, they must be God, or they must be the ruler. You know, Jesus isn't coming. But because it is their technology, not aliens, then what's really going to happen, what the aliens are really going to be used for, is the armies to keep you in check. The power, you'll see the glory of the beast and how powerful it is, because look at their ships, ray guns. They don't need nuclear. They could just freeze your bank account. You won't be able to buy or sell. And to keep you intimidated, there's a ship in the sky, which may just be monitoring you, surveilling you. But what does surveillance come with? It comes with crimes that are punishable by law. So they'll just make a law that says that if you don't comply, the technology we have it now, we could stop you from eating until you will comply. And that's all that the alien thing is. So if we don't say something now and say we don't believe it, we're going to get deceived when it arrives, and we're going to get into their ships and be disappeared, or whatever they're going to do to you. Or you're going to take some thing in your arm and you're going to be a zombie and whatever. But you're choosing to do it. If you don't wake up now, when it happens, you won't be able to resist it. Because you've got to prepare now. You've got to be prepared mentally, spiritually, and emotionally to say no. And you better be preparing your children. But look at this clip where they show that all of this stuff about the moon landing is fake. And Putin, he's a good guy now. The Russian dictator, head of the KGB. He's a good guy. He's just finding out about this. They're showing him that it was fake. He's like, oh, okay, wow. It's like the disclosure is not just happening for you, but for the powerful people, like the good guys like Trump and Putin. And they're probably going to come together and say, you know what? We've been lied to. We don't need to fight anymore. Let's all be one world. Let's Putin and Trump shake hands. Everything's going to be great. But you all just got to keep the law. That's it. You can't go out in the woods, of course, anymore because, you know, there's too many of you, you little scoundrels. You're shitting on the ground. So we can't allow you to get outside of your little 15-minute cities. But don't you worry. You'll have nothing and you'll love it. So long as you do not think that you can do anything to be a free person and believe that Jesus or love or goodness or extreme bliss could ever come to the world. We're just going to live in some, like a caged animal. And you're going to have to learn to be happy with that. But look at this clip where Putin pretends he's never heard this information before, and he's getting disclosure, and he's like, oh, I've got proof that 9/11 was faked. He's been saying that, and yet he hasn't released it. But this is a orchestrated effort around the world, whether it's Putin or Trump or Congress. They're about to reveal what you think is the truth, but it will not be the truth as the truth should be told. It will be another lie so great that you will not even recognize it as the lie. And that will be the one that will get you. Listen.
Former head of Russia's space agency says that the Apollo moon landings were fake. And in a recent video going around, Vladimir Putin is briefed that several moon landing images are considered to be fake by artificial intelligence.
Почти все объекты на этом фото ей кажутся не настоящими. В то же время вот фотография китайского лунохода у нее особенных вопросов не вызывает. А это то, что кажется не настоящим? Да.
There's a great deal of human intelligence who do not believe that the Apollo moon missions were authentic. And here are some of the reasons why. Astronauts were Freemasons and the sons of Freemasons. Freemasons swear on their lives to keep the secret.
I perpetrated a huge fraud, which I am now about to detail.
Okay.
Involving the United States government and NASA.
So they've been slowly putting stuff like this out. Why would this Kubrick guy or whatever this Hollywood producer suddenly want to tell the truth? He's in a brotherhood where if they didn't want the truth out there, he'd be gone. This is a concerted effort to try and tell us that we didn't go to the moon. All this flat earth stuff, it seems like some of it could be true. I mean, we didn't go to the moon. We didn't. Or at least what we saw that they claimed with pictures of us going to the moon is all fake. Regardless of whether they've actually gone to the moon or not, they certainly haven't shown us any pictures of it. And all the pictures they show us of outer space is CGI and faked. So, at the very same time that they're telling us about this, they're telling us that aliens are coming. What's up with that? And if they're lying yet again, what could this revelation of the flat earth have in common with all of this? Because, recently I have become more and more aware of something. Not necessarily that the earth is flat, because I don't have a clue what's going on. I still think we're in a hologram. However, it is now absolutely becoming certain that the earth does not have as much curvature as they say. And what this man's going to tell you here in just a second, I'm going to show you a clip. Even though I haven't really confirmed what he's saying, but just from what he's saying in my own conscious mind, I'm able to see that he's probably right. And this is some things that I've been thinking about too. Some things that just, I don't know why we've never stopped to think about it. But why is it we can see the sun going down over the horizon thousands of miles away? You see, the sun, if the curvature goes down that quickly, as they say, now it's going to set. The sun's going to set and go down over the horizon. Well, wherever we're standing at that moment in the Earth's spin, that sun's about to disappear. So that means we're getting near the end of that 12 hours of daylight. And for us to see the sun over the horizon, it should be a certain distance that is not hundreds of miles. If it's 6 o'clock and the sun's about to go down, it shouldn't be over 100 miles away, because we're at the end of that sun transient. If we can't see the sun anymore, it's gone down over the horizon. You can literally see sunsets far in the distance as they go down. Meaning that the Earth, as he says, according to some of their calculations, where they're looking at the sun and seeing it go down, the math says that the Earth could be many, 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 many times bigger, or perhaps it is flat, because when they get a camera that can zoom in, like some kind of NASA telescope, you can literally see the sun hundreds and hundreds of miles away. Even though you can't see it with the naked eye anymore. It looks like it's gone down, but you focus in on that horizon and it's still going. The sun's still there. It didn't ever really go down. And then there's another guy that was watching that shows, and you can look this up. You can go to like the Great Lakes and measure the altitude, or the elevation, I should say, at one end of the lake, and then go 100, 200 miles over at the other end of this lake and get the elevation. And you can measure that the water is literally level. The entire hundreds of miles, the water's level. Why would the water in a lake be level for hundreds of miles? And we can prove it by elevation. But the ocean is literally hugging the spherical globe. And this is the real question that I have. In this great disclosure, when Jesus returns, is the real truth that we have an infinite plane of lands and regions of Earth that we have never explored before? What an amazing thing if that were true. Because that would mean that a very small portion of the Earth is even populated. Or if there are populations beyond what we know of, what are they? Is that the angels, or is that paradise or something? Anyway, here's what this guy says. And it's obvious when you hear what he says that you can literally yourself go out tonight and prove what he's saying is true.
Globe debunk. I can see a sunset at a 6-foot height from one Hawaiian island to another. And if the Earth were a ball with a 59 mile radius, this is like too funny. You would see obstruction because the sun is supposedly the center of the solar system. So here's the sun, here's the Earth. Supposedly they're spinning backwards, right? So when I stand with a 6-foot observer height on the ocean, and I could see the sunset past Kauai, which you could see the island, and it's 108 miles away, the sun obstruction should actually be at 3 miles. Here's the math. Anybody can get their iPhones and do this. It's 1.23 miles times the square root of 6. That's going to give you the top of the ball. The top of the ball is what's supposed to be causing obstruction. But in reality, not in a model, we already won with sunsets. It's a done deal. The sun isn't being obstructed at 108 miles, where I could see Kauai from the tip of Oahu. It's hiding behind the horizon way further. Globe debunked.
Anyway, guys, I've looked down and I'm so far over an hour. I better end it there. I got a bunch of things else I got to do today, and I wish you guys a wonderful evening. Lord will bless you. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.